Welcome to the Emisarios Unidos de Luz channel. If you enjoy this near-death experience story, consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. Now let's start with the story. I was experiencing severe pain in postoperative recovery at the hospital when my NDE occurred. The severe pain caused me to pass out and awake in an expanse of the brightest and most beautiful light, a zone of light that seemed to be alive with the most exquisite love. It was a love that seemed brighter than the sun yet was not harsh or glaring, a light that pervaded and suffused every element of my being with divine love. As I looked ahead of me, I noticed a great temple that looked to be constructed of stone columns supporting the wooden rafters that formed the roof of the temple. The gentle breeze in that expanse caused the fabric draped over the rafters and the gold sashes adorning the stone columns to flutter. Even as I stood at a distance from the temple, I was able to see the details of its construction as if I were standing much closer to the building, and by virtue of that enhanced perspective, I was able to see that what I thought was cloth was actually curtains made from columns of interlinked gold coins. As I regarded the temple, I wondered if I had indeed died, yet the thought that I might be dead was of little concern to me. In that paradise of love, I experienced a state of absolute peace and bliss on an infinite continuum of the present moment and would have been content to remain in that state of ecstasy for all eternity. Out of curiosity, I decided to enter the temple but found that I wasn't able to move from where I was. I noticed a window to the side of the temple that enabled me to look inside, and as I looked through the window, I saw a large wooden box covered in carved gold plates. Suddenly, I became aware of an extremely bright orb of light approaching me, and I knew instinctively that the orb of light was in fact the light body of Jesus. As the orb approached, it illuminated the atmosphere to an even greater degree, and as it drew closer, I was able to distinguish the features of a man adorned in a white robe, with facial features similar to the depictions of Jesus I was familiar with. "It isn't your time yet. You have to return," Jesus communicated to me telepathically. Jesus explained that I still had work left to complete, knowing that I didn't want to return and that I wanted to remain with him in that heavenly place. "Everything will be okay, as I am always with you," he reassured. As much as I understood his reasoning, I still felt compelled to argue in favor of staying with him in that heavenly realm, but I also knew that arguing would have been futile. I then saw in a vision, my body bedecked in a white robe that glistened with light, and I knew that my body was being healed by the light of God at that very moment. The power of the majestic love and compassion in God's presence filled me with awe, gratitude, and humility to the point where I was overcome by emotion, and as much as I would have liked to have stayed there in the light of that majestic love, I knew in the very depth of my being that it wasn't yet my time. As my consciousness began to descend to the lower realms, I began to think about my family and the people I would miss if I didn't return, and I began to recall memories of my life as I began to reconnect with my body. Suddenly, I was back in my body once again, but free of the pain that I experienced before the NDE. Back in my body, the physical world seemed unreal to me, but that dreamlike seemingness of the world only lasted a few moments. As I began to recall everything that had happened during my NDE, I wondered how I could explain it to others without sounding ridiculous. I wanted others to hear about my experience of the realm of love and light, about the grandeur of God's unconditional love, and how alive I felt to have experienced heaven. Even though I had left the heavenly realm to return to the less than heavenly life of the physical, I was still able to feel God's presence, as if part of me remained with him, basking in the light of his awesome presence. I experienced some difficulty reconnecting with my body and with the world after my NDE. I didn't feel that I was able to discuss it with others, as it sounds to others like crazy talk to try and pass it off as something that I actually experienced. To others, at best, it sounded like nothing more than a dream that I experienced while I was unconscious, yet I still wanted to tell others about my experience. I know absolutely that my experience of being in the presence of God was real, yet I wasn't able to find the right words or the right time to share my incredible experience. Life after my NDE has become almost too much to be able to cope with, as I am forever focused on the life that exists beyond the clouds.